Africa is not just a place, but it's also a mindset. I know Lowery Stokes Sims. As a fellow New Yorker, she is a curator at the extraordinary Museum of Arts and Design in my hometown of New York. And on show there right now is a pioneering exhibition, Global Africa Project. It's said to be the largest multidisciplinary exhibition of African art, craft, and design ever. Lowery will tell us all about this and about her work. Please welcome Lowery Stokes Sims.
I've never had an introduction like that. So, question. How do you create a survey of design, craft, art, architecture, and fashion that surveys Africa? That was the assignment I got when I joined the Museum of Arts and Design about 3 years ago. So the answer to that is very carefully. Now, there are pitfalls. There's a temptation to essentialize what is habitually thought of as Africa. The challenge is to expand the notion of Africa beyond the continental boundaries and reflect the nomadic nature of contemporary practice and also historical precedent. And also, you have to do this in the context of the United States, which I'm sorry to say is woefully ignorant about anything that's going on in Africa. So what your decision was to redirect the perception of Africa away from notions of race, ethnicity, and even color, and to promote Africa as a psychic space. How do you do that? How do you then title that? You call it the Global Africa Project as a kind of way to sort of set the parameters in people's minds early on. You go to bed at night and hope that a sexier title will come. It never does, so you end up with that one. So what's the methodology? Follow the designers, the craftsmen, and the artists. And as a result, you get an exhibition that privileges the challenges and concerns faced by creators in that psychic space, and you organize an exhibition around certain themes, and you end up with individuals who are living and working and zipping back and forth among Africa, Asia, Europe, the United States, the Caribbean, Japan, and even India. So what I wanted to focus on today was two of the themes in the exhibition that fit in with this particular panel discussion. Now, I have to sort of say I come from the dark side of the art world, as I call it. When I moved into design and craft, I realized there was a kind of moral imperative that the painting, sculptor, installation crew just didn't have. So a lot of my references came from my experiences in that space. And I remembered, as I was organizing the exhibition, how the Ghanaian-born painter, Fode Camara, once described the essence of Africanness in contemporary creative production as being grounded in amalgamation and recycling. Oh, this was good. And this encapsulates works from the global African world that demonstrated a pervasive ingenuity in utilizing materials that were readily available as opposed to imported ones, and recognizing the impact of their production on local economies. So Maker Faire was one of the first groups that we identified in promoting this tendency, and their convenings in Ghana in 2009 and Kenya in 2010 celebrate arts, crafts, and focus our attention on the entrepreneurial spirit that remains trapped in the informal sectors, the bricoleurs, the tinkerers, who ingeniously meet local demands. And often it's the use of rejected cargo from international trade that provides the source materials for that entrepreneurship. Now this has a correlation in the art world, and I remember hearing in 2008 the renowned sculptor and bricoleur El Anatsui, when he was interviewed at the Metropolitan Museum, and he sort of stated, quote, I work with processes and media that are immediately around me. And in Africa, just like everywhere else in the world, we create waste. I work with materials you don't have to spend anything on, and where you have the freedom to play around. You can't play around with something which is expensive. I thought that was really cool, because I think that the freedom to experiment reminds us of the essential energy and power and discovery that underlies design, craft, and art produced even under the most dire circumstances, and exemplify Design Indaba's motto of better living through creativity. And certainly that lies behind the use of materials by designers such as Ousmane Mbaye, who you see on the left from Senegal, who creates furniture from recycled barrels and galvanized iron. Or the Nigerian sculptor Olu Amoda, who has a sideline creating security gates for the anxious in Lagos. And this is the gate that he created for the exhibition on the right. And Ramol Hazume, who makes masks and columns and sideboards from discarded plastic and rubber containers, hoses, and implements. Now, what struck me was that this strategy of scrounging and collecting the remnants of foreign cargo can provide occasions for a political commentary within aesthetic design that can be explicit or implicit in the work of artists in the global Africa world. So, for instance, Hazume exposes the issue of pollution by petroleum countries in the Niger Delta and the Gulf of Mexico and myriad sites around the world. And he created for the exhibition the tall piece in the middle, which is called Chin Chin. And he wrote, I have used oil canisters to construct an ironic working man's version of a crystal champagne. The title, champagne flute. The title represents a cynical salute to the oligarchs. Your very good health, Chin Chin. His photographic essay, which is represented on the left, highlight the situations of displaced workers who are forced to live and make a living by transporting contraband petrol across the Nigerian border, carrying loads as heavy as 250 liters of cans strapped to their bodies and their bicycles. Many lose their lives as the cargo explodes in street accidents. So, known by locals as Benin Roulé, this job provides 90% of Benin's fuel. So Hazume uses his influential status as an international artist to draw attention to the exploitation of ordinary people. Likewise, in his assemblage screen, which looks very gorgeous here, Amoda refers to the displacement resulting from civil strife and border disputes in Nigeria. This is a wonderful cascade of nails, an assemblage of locks and door handles, which he thinks of as representing the only objects that survived the burnt houses of displaced people. When we brought Olu over for the exhibition, and he kept saying, I'm sending over by FedEx some nails. This is in the midst of all our problems getting him a visa to come into the United States. So we're going, why is he sending nails to the United States? We have plenty of nails here. But they ended up being recycled nails that he had collected from those homes in Lagos. And then the locks and the doorknobs he collected in Southampton, Long Island, where he was there. So it was this kind of union of elements that sort of really talked to the kind of global dialogue that he wanted to do. Now, some more examples from the exhibition are Kosi Asu's furniture that's made from recycled metal oil barrels into seating and tables. Asu has noted that he believes that, quote, before a design object can be beautiful, it must be functional and reproducible. I also choose local materials wherever possible, which helps to highlight work from the area. From South Africa, we included the work of Heath Nash, Willow Lamp, which Beverly Price, who makes jewelry from found paper and recycled objects. Most of these designers work with skilled craftsmen to create their work, and this is, as Carla has really talked about, the important aspect of providing economic sustainability in communities throughout what we're calling the global African world. We were pleased to be able to debut a new line of furniture, which is called Taboo, by Bibi Sek of the New York-based firm Bruxelles and Sek. Bibi is Martinican and Senegalese and had been working a lot in Senegal, and was struck. It's so interesting how artists see a material and the imagination just goes wild. Taboo is created from recycled plastic that's processed by women in a town called Thiès outside of Dakar, and the furniture is molded out of this recycled plastic by Trans-Tech, which is a factory in Dakar owned and run by a woman, Marie-Jo Sanchez Girardon. So we have this kind of marriage. The women in Thiès are given money to sort of process, and then it comes, and Bibi's dealing with this. The interesting thing that Bibi and Aisha, his wife, are talking about now is that instead of just being designers, they now are involved in production and distribution, which is a whole different aspect for them. Now they have to deal with customs, labor laws, insurance, and money. So it's really kind of a brave new aspect of their work that's coming along. This is one of my favorite pieces in the exhibition. It looks like a textile, but it's actually created out of 100,000 beads made out of paper. It was conceived and designed by a Harlem-based artist, Algernon Miller, and was actually executed by the Ugandan designer Sana Kateja, whose work I had seen first in the 2004 exhibition Design Made in Africa. And on your right is a sort of elaborate neck piece that Sana himself created for the exhibition. This tapestry, because Sana worked with the Kwetu Art and Development Center, which employs women who are either widows or wives of soldiers in Uganda. The terrific thing is that Algernon never went to Uganda. This is all done with iPhone and email. And I thought this was an important thing to sort of show an American audience who sort of think of African craftsmen in particular as sort of hiding away in little countries, little rural sites, totally isolated from the rest of the world. So it not only demonstrates how collaborations between artists and designers and local craft forces could transform the aspirations of worker in creating objects for a global market, but the best thing about this, for me, is that it's created out of recycled Obama campaign literature. Now I knew I wanted some Obama in my exhibition somewhere, but I knew if I had his face there, every Republican would go ballistic. So this way, it's my subversive way with Algernon Miller, Sana Kateja, and the Kwetu Art Center to get my Obama into my show. Another aspect of local sourcing that we try to deal with is situations in which artists and designers are working with materials that are readily available locally. So we included the Zenzulu brand that has taken an innovative twist on traditional basketry techniques in terms of iconography, color, and forms using telephone wire. Then there's also Boubacar Fofana's dramatic indigo-dyed fabrics, which involve indigenous Malian dyes, materials, and traditional techniques. The fashion statements of Agni Hef, which are a big crowd pleaser, refigure our notions of the uses of gourds and local grasses in dramatic and fantastic garments that exist somewhere between fashion and costume. And then local animal products are combined with gold and semi-precious gems in the workshops of the Shampoo collection from Kenya. And these pieces pay homage to traditional forms while renovating their style and their aesthetics. And of course, the Mud Studio, and this is another piece that is just confounds our public, which create fabulous riffs on traditional European crystal chandeliers in mud. Now, a third manifestation of sourcing locally that we have in the exhibition is that we have a number of design and DIY design activities. Now, it's no secret that high design and high fashion often seeks inspiration in the innovative remixing of urban youth and style-conscious aficionados. The anarchistic aspects of this particular fashion sense not only relates to the freewheeling manner in which various style elements are mixed and remixed with these individual expressions, but also the fact that these tendencies can be found in the most unlikely places. This is the case with the SAPs, who many of you know. I love their name, the Société des Ambianceurs et des Personnes Élégantes. They're based in the Congo, and it's a style movement of elegance and moral and social courtliness that involves a relentless assembling of couture or high-style clothing by whatever means possible. They create personas that functions as arbiters in any given context. And we have a representation of photographs by the Italian Daniele Tamagni, whose images demonstrate how the sapeur aesthetic defies time, circumstance, and often the chaos and the upheaval of contemporary African life. The persistence and the pervasiveness of this style, particularly of male elegance, has crossed the Atlantic as well. And I think I was attracted to the SAPs because I had before me the memory of my own father, who, he would turn out on every occasion in ways and in color combinations that often confounded me, but always elegant, and he had a gold tooth for one of his four, so he just grinned and he would be totally the personification of elegance. I think it also speaks to characteristics such as the sense of cool, which is identified by the noted African scholar and art historian Robert Ferris Thomas as the essence of an African identity. And he wrote once, "To be cool means to be composed in a sharing sense, to remember the way one ought to be. Intensity can be matched with ecstasy, a fixed expression with the solemnity of mien, opposing immobile faces with the pulsations of the body. Cool is the sign of a positive transition into an ideal world." Lolo Vallejo captures this in her photographs of South African youth, noting how, quote, "Fashion really plays with identity, but when it comes to one's own true identity in South Africa, it becomes problematic, especially when it comes to mixed relationships and a mixed background. It was safe to take fashion as a point of view because nobody thinks that they're doing something serious playing with identity." This comes through also in the runway designs of the Haitian-born designer Victor Guillemot, who works for Tommy Hilfiger during the day and has his own men's line by night. He reinterprets the standard forms of sartorial elegance, taking a new and contemporary approach, and he said, quote, "I imagine and project a story onto the clothes and make that a theme for my collection that season. The wearer is part of the creative process, and the clothes are the text of the narrative, and the wearer is the actor." And it had me sort of thinking about, Vallejo, the Saps, and Victor Guillemot, all in three different contexts, creating this kind of universal sense of male elegance. So I'm going to come in under the 5 minutes. Nah. I just want to thank you for letting me share just a part of this project, which has provided a very exciting journey for my co-curator, Leslie King Hammond, who is director of the Center for Race and Culture at the Maryland Institute College of Art. We always say we've known each other since Girl Scouts. We've worked together for 40 years, and we're joined at the hip. I think what we came away with is that an appreciation for the dauntless imagination and endless creative well that exists in the global African world. What also became clear to us was that design, craft, and art provide a third way, somewhere in between investment and aid, And we were here evoking the Peruvian economist Hernando Soto to collective support and individual entrepreneurship that highlights the strength of internal creative initiatives. Thank you.